Awesome. We're live. Yay. Hello. How are you guys?
Greetings from what will become eventually our dining room. In the background, we have baby Natalie playing on her playmat,
which we found at a garage sale and are a big fan of. So
we'll see how long she lasts.
Yeah.
We have, but as you can see, we have other various baby toys in here. So hopefully she can be entertained for the entire 30 minutes.
That's our hope. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So where's everyone from today? This is one of my favorite parts. Is our chat?
Yeah, I know.
Is our chat up and running?
I see people here, but I don't see any chats yet. So I want to make sure.
Should we maybe do live chat?
There we go.
There
Okay.
we go.
Be the ripple effect. Yes, Amanda.
Ooh,
I love it.
Canada.
Canada.
Nice. Kansas.
Cali, my favorite place.
Oh, Jamie from Lexington.
Oh.
Hey, Jamie.
Oh, hey, Jamie.
Yeah, we grew up with Jamie.
Yes. Germany, South Carolina, Colorado,
The Netherlands. Ooh,
Mississippi,
San Antonio,
Charlotte,
Alsace in France. I'm pretty sure I can't say that correctly.
I can't say that
but that's
either.
really cool. We went to France 2 years ago.
I want to go back so bad.
I've
love
bet
France.
Tiffany that if she runs a
This is
marathon,
never going to happen.
I will give her a shopping spree in Paris.
She said it'll give me $1,000 shopping spree for running a marathon. I'm sorry. It'd have to be like $1 million. I'm never running a marathon. Just saying.
I just try to make bets that I know I won't have to pay on.
Thank you, Tirza. I love it too. I was so excited. It's one of those shirts after pregnancy that I was like, I actually feel cute in this shirt. There weren't many things when I first had Natalie that I felt cute in. So, Manitoba and Virginia and Tijuana. Oh, cool. South Africa. And yeah. That's a good question, Jamie. I think it's a lifelong bet.
Yeah, no. There's no, as long as,
He's
I mean, you
pretty
can't
sure
walk.
that he won't
can't
have
walk.
to pay. Oh, like how long I'd have to run it in. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can't pay me enough to do that kind of stuff. My mom will do it without being paid.
Oh, my goodness.
Roatan Islands. Ooh, that's cool. Dayton, Ohio. Cool. Well, because I hang out to another group. Oh, these are, okay, yes, start on the questions. Anna, I think it's Anna or Anna.
Yeah.
Listening from upstate New York, yes, that's where we are too. And Cassie, we're so happy to have you. So basically how we work this is we just kind of talk about your questions and we just get to as many as we can, which we can never get to all of them, sadly, but we'll just spend the next 30 minutes just answering as many as we can. And we don't know your whole situation, so we encourage you to talk with like people you know who know you personally too.
But getting things out there, I think, is always hard.
Yes. And did you like James's title, Bring Your Sizzling Questions for Summer?
It's
I was
free.
like, that's so corny, kind of awesome. So, okay. So we have Anna's question. And you guys can start writing any in. My friends are jealous because I hang out with another friends group. Because of that, we're having a lot of arguments. What should I do? So I think you're meaning like you have two different friends groups and they're getting jealous when you're hanging out with the other one. Is that, if that's not correct?
Yeah, just write it.
Yeah. That's always tough.
I've always felt like anytime that you have friend groups that identify as a friend group, there's always this kind of element of exclusivity that goes with that. Like, I think that's just kind of the nature of if you're saying, oh yeah, the friend group. And I think that especially if you're younger, friends like sub 20,
Yeah.
I think friends do tend to be jealous. So
Right.
on some level, what you're dealing with, I think is normal.
Yeah.
And I think you want to just try not to react in the moment to situations. A lot of times these arguments can be petty. I think you really want to think before you speak and think before you get involved. Because a lot of times it's very easy to get into like very petty arguments.
Yeah. And by the way, if any of you guys have had experiences with these questions as we go, feel free to like comment your own thoughts and advice in.
That answer might also not apply because I'm not a girl. I've only dealt with groups of guy friends.
No, I feel like that's true though. And I think you can have, to some extent, you might not be able to do a ton about it, but I think you can have a conversation if you notice specific people feeling jealous. If you can just sit down and talk with them and say like, I'm feeling like it seems like maybe there's a little bit of jealousy here. I just wanted to talk about it and see like, how are you feeling? And maybe there's something that happened and they maybe, for example, in the past, they had a friend who just kind of ditched them and they're afraid that you're going to do that. And you can just kind of talk to them about it and like assure them that that's not what's happening. And I know like some people who've had to really work through that. Like someone close to me had a friend who was very jealous. And whenever this person would hang out with somebody else, their friend would get really upset with them. And the person had to kind of sit down and talk with their friend somewhat regularly to work through it. That's what she decided to do. And
yeah, I think anytime you can have like a one-on-one in-person conversation,
yeah,
that's a really good way to move past whatever seems to be between you. Because certainly like text messages you just kind of go around and around and around.
Yeah. So it's a tricky situation though. It's a very tricky situation. So Tirza says, I have a question. How long do you think it should take before two people meet after being long distance? Oh, okay. So it sounds like you met online and have been long distance the whole time, and then you're going to meet up in person. That's what I think you're saying. Not a relationship, but just talking long distance. Okay, yeah. Again, I don't know that there's a wrong answer. The big thing I would say is when you do meet up, make sure you do it safely. So like people can be anyone online, and chances are this is a great person, but just because you never know for sure, I would like I know one person who was going to another country to meet someone they met online. In a situation like that, I would always bring someone with you. Like don't just kind of take off and go on your own. Like bring someone with you, do it in a safe way, like have somewhere to stay, like make sure you have a plan of action just to make sure that this is a person who's legit and who they say they are. But I don't think there's any like right or wrong answer as far as how soon is too soon. It just kind of depends on what feels natural in the relationship, I would say. And someone who knows you well can kind of speak into that. Like if you're someone who tends to hold back out of like fear, or if you're someone who tends to jump the gun and be really too quick in situations, you know, someone who knows you well can kind of speak to that more specifically.
Yeah. A number I'll make up is, and again, I said I'm making this up. 3 months. I feel like if you're talking to someone over 3 months, for something to last like a relationship, romantic or not, longer than 3 months, you probably feel like, wow, we actually might have a connection there. Because sometimes you can just get one or the other person to be really intense into a relationship in a while, and then they sort of go really intense into something else, and you're like, oh, this was really just sort of like a romantic or non-romantic fling. Like we were like really into talking for a while, and then we just sort of drifted apart. On some level, that's natural. And so I think if you've just been communicating it's different for different people, but like for me, for longer than 3 months, it's like, oh, I really do have like something in common with this person.
And that depends how far away they are, like how far they're going to travel. If they're like 2 hours away, I might not wait 3 months. But if they're like on the other side of the world, I'd probably wait 3 months because it's expensive.
That's true. All right. Let's see. Claire asks, how can you tell if a guy likes you or just wants to be friends?
Isn't that the question of the ages? That's tough.
On some level, I don't think that you can tell, because a guy might want to be friends, definitely. He might definitely be interested, but there's also a really good chance he's not really sure and enjoys flirting with you. So
that's true. We actually have a video called Why Do Guys Flirt, and like 4 different guys shared. I thought it was really interesting to hear their answers. And like the big thing that came across through all of them was like, you don't really know what a guy is thinking unless you've had a conversation about it.
Yes, that's true.
And there are definitely signs, like for example, if he actually like texts back and like writes a lot, like that can be a sign of interest. But again, it could just be that he wants to be friends or is flirting, but that could be a sign of interest. Or like if he goes out of his way to spend more time with you, things like that can be a sign of interest, but you still don't know for sure. And, and crushes can come and go so fast.
For both guys and girls. So
it could be that maybe he did think maybe he liked you and then decided he wanted to be friends, or vice versa.
Yeah, whenever possible, I would try to just like keep your emotional jury out. Like, yeah, maybe he's interested, maybe not, but until he makes a move.
Or you make a move.
Yeah, it's just going to kind of be.
And we have a video on that too called How Not to Get Led On by Your Crush. I would recommend that video.
Okay.
But that's a really good question.
All right. How do you balance your relationship with God? I feel like something like that.
If you figure it out, tell me.
It's sort of like trying to stay in shape physically. It's just difficult because I think as a human, it's really easy to lose focus if you're focused on more than one thing. And those are all like really important things. And so I think you need to be sort of in a constant state of kind of self-reflection as to how am I balancing these things. And like staying healthy, I would add to that too, and like having healthy friendships.
Yeah, there's so many important things in life, and finding a balance can be tough. I think one of the most important things for me is to take some time in solitude and silence, not necessarily every day, but on a regular basis. So like when we were before Natalie was born, we need to get back in the habit now, but before Natalie was born, we had one day a week that we would just take as our Sabbath day and just rest and have that time to spend together and to spend with God and to reflect. And like having time to just be still and think. Like James preached at youth group today. I loved what he said at the end. He was like, the way that God's Spirit speaks to us a lot of times is in silence, but we live in such a busy, noisy culture that we don't take time for silence. And I find in my life, it feels like I don't have time for that, but when I make time for that, that's when God really like shows me how to balance things, and he just kind of like puts things in order. I know that sounds really cliche and cheesy, but
that is also true. That is true.
But yeah, and I think the other thing is having grace with yourself, of not expecting too much. That's one of the things I struggle with. I have so many expectations for myself, and I can never meet them all. And so just to have like grace with myself and have more like realistic expectations, what it means to have a balanced life, and maybe not doing everything I think I should be able to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Okay.
So we have a question from Morgan. She broke up with a guy 2 years ago, and he wants to up down a little bit.
Oh, it's down.
Yeah.
Oh no.
That must be a different question.
Oh man,
all right. So Morgan, what I think it was is up there. It is.
Okay.
He still wants. He wants a second chance. He wants to get back together with her, but she's not interested. But she still wants to be friends.
Oh yeah.
He says okay with this, but I don't know if it's smart. We were sort of talking about this the other day. I don't. If you like. I mean, if you went on like
2 years ago too.
I feel like if you went like on a couple dates with someone, and it's like they just want to be friendly, that's fine. But I think like if you legitimately dated someone, I think it's kind of weird to be friends still.
I think I disagree with that. We were talking about this the other day. He's like, I think it's weird to be friends. I was like, I don't think it's necessarily weird to be friends. I think it kind of depends on the person and like how serious you were, how the breakup ended. I don't think it's always great to be really good friends right after you break up, because then it's hard to like kind of heal and cut ties in a sense. But it's been 2 years, and it sounds like you guys are still friendly. So I guess be sensitive to like how much of a friendship is too much, since he still has feelings, and since feelings can develop really quickly when you're spending a lot of time one-on-one with someone. So I think it's just being aware of like what looks right for you. And sometimes it is weird to be friends after you've dated.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not. I think it just depends on the situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's okay to just not be. You can
be friends without being best friends.
Yeah, and you can be friendly with someone without being like, oh, this is someone I want to include in my life.
In every part of my life,
So Christian asks, how would you recommend gauging if a guy likes you or if he just wants to be friends? To our earlier point, difficult.
Yeah.
But you say, I have a guy I know from church that I kind of like, but I can't tell if he likes me or not. I mean, on some level,
there 1,000 times.
I think it's
church
important
guys are the hardest. I'm like, guys, come on, just like figure out what you want. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's important though to figure out what you want. So you think you like this person? Great. I mean, you don't necessarily need to ask him out, but you can pursue spending time with him to see if you like him more when you get to know him, or if you're like, he was better from a distance.
Yeah,
some guys are like that.
That's true. And there's nothing wrong with trying to spend time together. We had a friend who got married a year or two ago, Amy, and our friend's mom gave her advice. The guy she was interested in was like, your friend. Do you know what I'm talking about? This is so awkward. I'm like, do you know what I'm talking about?
No. Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm probably saying that too loud. Anyway, they wouldn't care. But he was kind of like didn't get it that if like someone liked him, and so our friend's mom was like, "You just go for him, girl. Like you go after him with all you got till he figures out that you like him." And I was like, "That's amazing advice." Some guys just don't get it.
A little slow on the uptake.
And it wasn't that he wasn't pursuing her. I know there's this whole idea in Christian culture that the guy needs to be like the one pursuing. That doesn't mean that he's not pursuing her. It just means that he doesn't get that she likes him. Pursuit is what happens like over time. And you both need to be pursuing each other, because if only one person's pursuing the other, then the other person's going to feel left out, whether it's the guy or the girl. It needs to be like mutual.
I got
Make sense? Okay.
I agree.
Oh, he's reading. Oh, Diane Mullet, my cousin, second cousin,
Hey,
my mom's
Diane.
cousin.
Okay. All right. So Alyssa says, I joined a choir at church, and after 5 years, I quit, which is now everyone wants me to go back, but there are reasons I can't. You'll have to tell us more about the situation.
Yeah. But if it's not, but also like if you have like, if you know it's not good for you and you need to set healthy boundaries, then kudos to you for setting those healthy boundaries. Okay, when part of a breakup was
That's a good question.
another guy, how long should you wait until you start dating the other guy? Oh, that's a really good question.
I don't know that there's a
A
good
black
answer.
and white answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many things there's not.
So you're dating a guy and you're like, oh, there's this other guy that I like even more. So I mean, I would guess I wouldn't rush into it, but I would sort of. I don't know the fact that you broke up as a huge. Well, I think you need to sort of take time to evaluate that last relationship and like heal from it, learn from it. So I guess I wouldn't rush into it, but I think you can communicate with the new guy.
Yeah, I think the big thing is to just make sure that you're not like rebounding, I guess, which it doesn't sound like that's what this is about, but like just because of how quick feelings can come and go for somebody, and you don't want to like hurt people in the process, you know? So I would take some time to like James was saying, just kind of reflect and know like where your heart is and just give it a little bit of time maybe, but that's just my personal perspective, and I think someone who knows the whole situation would have much better wisdom for you. But that's a tricky one. How can I let a guy know I'm interested in him, and so that way he'll make the first move? Oh, like we talked about, I actually don't think the guy always has to make the first move. Okay, so if you've seen our videos about I forget what we called it, and the girl asks a guy out, like, we both think that's totally fine. Because, like, yes, you want the guy to pursue you, but that's not the same thing as making the first move. Like, you can, James has pointed out, like, pursuit is what happens over time. Like, you help another person feel loved and valued over time. And both of you need to do that for each other in a relationship, not just one person. And so if that's your personal preference, the guy make the first move, then that's fine. But that's not like how it has to be in a Christian relationship. But what are some ways that she could let a guy know she's interested?
I think just seeking ways to spend time with him in groups and potentially one-on-one. I mean, you don't need to, you can sort of get to know a guy, even if he's not really sure if he likes you, like you can move on with your life and try to get, in the sense that you can try to get to know him and, see what you think.
Yeah. Let's see. Kate says, any advice for moving on from sexual sin? I actually have a video for you. It is called, I have no idea what it's called.
Wait, was this the one you just did about like?
No, that's about how to talk to your boyfriend about it. There's one about like, I think it's like when you've had sex and you decided you want to wait again. That talks about
sex
kind of,
when you want to wait again. I think
something like that. And that talks about like kind of moving past and healing from things in your past. So I would recommend that video. Let's see. Reverend Rasheen Stewart, what advice do you have for someone who's dealing with rejection issues when it comes to dating? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
and all these guys, and like everyone I like doesn't like me back, and it felt very like alone. And I think it's helpful to know that you're not the only one. I know that sounds like cliche, but that so many people go through it. And I'm trying to remember what was really helpful to me.
I think it's helpful to build community, to have because it's really easy to feel really alone, like Tiffany was saying. So to the extent that you can have people who are friends, either people your age or people who are other ages, and also I think to have like meaningful relationships that you're investing in, that can help feel like it's giving you purpose, even when you're sort of dealing with the loneliness.
And I have a video called Dealing with Rejection that shares like some of my own journey through that too, that might be able to encourage you.
Yeah, but it's definitely tough. Don't try to be like, oh, I should totally get over this.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. It is kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Especially when like you are craving a relationship because you've been made for relationships. And yeah, I think you smell like you just pooped in your pants.
It's totally possible. Babies do that.
She did it when Daddy was home.
Oh boy.
Daddy.
I think we know who's changing that diaper.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really sweet. Do you see that note from Tirsa?
Tiffany, I just want to tell you thank you because you're like an online mentor through your videos and your love for God really shines through. Oh, that means so much. Thank you. That's so sweet.
Oh, hi to you from Germany too, Mila. I mean, I'm so bad at pronouncing people's names. Just
I know, and always afraid we're gonna miss
I did okay in
comments
college
because we all kind of blend together on the screen. So I'm always like, wait,
Oh, okay. Someone asked, this is a good question. Is it wrong to ask God for a wealthy husband? Raised in poverty and don't want that for yourself? No, I don't think that's wrong. No. I guess what you mean by wealthy, if you're like, God, unless he's driving a Ferrari, like, no, I'm sure that's probably not what you mean, but yeah, I think it's totally fine to say, to God, like, I have standards. Like, I want to be with someone who's a good provider. I think
or
that's
someone who like is wise with his money. I think that's an important thing to look for in your spouse. For me and for James, to be with someone who's like wise about their money and isn't just throwing money to the wind. And yeah, I think that's an important thing, an important quality to look for. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that's helpful. Oh, that's very sweet from CM.
You form my life in ways you cannot imagine. Oh, that's so encouraging.
Thank you. All right. So what advice do you have when you feel pressured or pushed by society, mostly in school, to have a boyfriend and have sex? When you can go with that. And it's tough because we don't really know your situation. My first inclination would be to say, find new friends. But a lot of times, you're in a small school or in a situation where you only have those people.
Yeah. And I think if you can find a community that supports you, even if it's not at school, that can help a lot. Just to have someone who kind of validates, like, it's okay that this is your decision and we're going to encourage you and support you in it. That helps so much. You might even be able to find that online, but just to find that somewhere.
Yeah, I think to the extent that, obviously when you feel the pressure, you sort of have to deal with that. But I would deal with that by yourself. I wouldn't necessarily deal with that in front of the people who are pressuring you. If someone's pressuring you to have sex or even drink alcohol or to cheat or even, I don't know, to like drive fast, all sorts of things. If you just say, no, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. You don't talk about it. You say, no, I don't want to. It really eventually starts to shut the person down if that's really all you're giving them. If they sense that there's maybe the opportunity to convince you, they'll probably go after you a little bit more. But if you just sort of always just shut them down and say, don't feel like talking about it, I think eventually people will start to respect that or accept that that's just the way that you are.
And I think we feel pressure throughout life. Like when we're younger, it can look like that, but throughout life, there's different ways that people will pressure you, whether in your job or your family or whatever it is, to do things that are not healthy or aren't right for you. And so it's a really good life skill to learn how to handle that pressure and to be okay. This is something I struggle with. And God continues giving me opportunities to work on, and I don't always love the opportunities, but just to be okay with people not always agreeing or not always understanding where I'm coming from. And that's really an important skill to learn.
Yeah. I think you'll also find, maybe not in the moment, but eventually you'll realize that people respected you for standing up for what you believed in, even if they totally disagreed. You wouldn't necessarily get that feedback from them in the moment, though.
Right.
But you probably only find that later on.
Yeah.
So someone asked, my mom is against me moving into a relationship with a longtime friend because although he's a great man of God, he goes to a church where she thinks there's no opportunity for growth. I don't know. I guess it's tough to know. It's tough to give advice because we don't know a lot about the situation.
Yeah.
In your relationship with your mom and your mom. I guess I would seek advice from people who maybe know both of you. And
we talked about this in our last live stream. I think I called it parental involvement in dating. And I would definitely check that out too, because I know a lot of people who are adults, in their 20s, and their parents try to kind of control who they date. I hear from a lot of you about that. And while parental is just not healthy, and the advice actually is not always good. But then there's other times when you just want to convince yourself that it's not good because you want a relationship so badly. Yeah. So it's really important to have someone else speak into the situation, like someone who's really trustworthy and has your true best interest at heart.
Interestingly enough, here's another message from, I'm probably going to say your name wrong, Bergonius. How do I go about making a decision about going on to a date with this guy or not? I feel like you're sort of confusing, hey, I'm going to go on a date, and you're sort of saying, well, since I'm going to go on a date, I'm obviously going to be in a relationship. That's not really a healthy attitude. It's very easy to do. I used to do that. So
I said I do that all the time. I used to do that all the time. Clearly not anymore.
But that's not a healthy attitude to have in going into a first date. You have to really go into a first date, honestly, with your mind not made up about the person. You need to sort of be able to evaluate them. If you go into a date thinking, I'm already in a relationship with this person, it's going to be really easy to not really get to know them because you've already decided, you're in a relationship with them, you're like them. So I see your message. I want to remain respectful to my mom. But you like this guy? Hey, go on a date, see what it's like. Maybe have him over to your house so your mom can interact with him.
Yeah.
Could be good.
And
could be not good.
And you may have already done this, but talking more with your mom about like, well, what do you mean by no opportunity for growth? Like, what does that really mean to you? What do you think that would have, and how would that have an impact on our future? And just kind of see, like, let her feel heard, but also like see if there's any wisdom you can glean from that, or if it's valid or not.
Yeah, because sometimes moms, there's more to what they see than what they say.
Right.
That does happen. Oh, this is a good question from Chloe. In college, does not feel ready to be married anytime soon. Should you even be dating? I've heard some say you shouldn't date until you're ready to marry. I would say if you're in college, I think it's fine to go on what I would describe as casual dates. Mm-hmm. You meet someone,
I think those are
you're a little interested, they might seem a little interested, go on a date. You're not committing to be in a relationship because you're going on a date.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity to get to know a guy better. And guys in general, what guys are like, we're pretty different from girls. And more about yourself too. Yeah.
I think casual dating is like actually a really great thing to do. And by casual dating, I do not mean casual hooking up.
We do not mean that.
I mean like going on a date that's strictly just a date. You're not, getting physical with the person. There's no like commitment. It's just getting to know them.
You're talking to them.
Yeah.
Just talking. Yeah.
And I think that's great.
Okay. Oh, and Helica, hello from Guatemala. I love Guatemala. I haven't been there for a long time, but I really want to take Tiffany. Cassie says, how do you stay motivated in a relationship with God?
I think you. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you're first.
I think you go through seasons. And I think it's totally normal to have seasons where you feel super motivated and seasons where you don't. And I think we sometimes feel bad about the seasons where we don't. But it's like anything, like, okay, I think I need to feed her. It was like, it's like sports, it's like my mom with running her marathons. There are days she wants to run and there are days she doesn't. But she still like stays consistent with it anyway. And I think that's okay. I don't think you always have to feel especially motivated. It's just important to stay consistent, if that makes sense. I think we just put too much pressure on ourselves. I know I do. I'll be like, I used to want to spend time with God, and right now I just want to go to sleep. And I think that's okay. It's just the key is to just stay disciplined.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah, I think that's good.
She is hungry and poopy.
Oh my goodness. Should I hold her? Do you think she'll smell the milk less?
Maybe. And maybe should we do like one or two more questions and then call it a day?
Okay. Abigail says, a guy asked me out. Oh, I lost it. Oh, okay.
I love your baby laughs.
All right, I'm just going to pick Rachel's question here. Career question. What steps should I take before making a decision about pursuing more education for my career? It's a big commitment, and I'm afraid it won't end up being what I want to do. Tell us more about what you're considering. Rachel, if you're still here. Okay. Let's see. I caught feelings for a guy from Jasmine who's a close friend for quite some time now. He was sending mixed signals, typical. Then he got a girlfriend a few weeks ago, and I should definitely move on, right? Yeah, you can, but it's a process to move on. Like, you can't just tell your feelings, don't like this person anymore. Feelings take a while to move on from.
It's that easy.
So,
and I have a video called How to Get Over a Crush that might be able to help.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So Rissa May says, there have been some older people in my church who always gossip, talk bad about, and seemingly attack me and my parents for everything we do or don't do. Please help. What can we do? That's a tough situation. That's a tough situation. I think it's helpful. I mean, there's so much that's going on that could be going on with your church. I think helpful to talk to pray and talk to people who might know a little bit more about the situation. But I think one thing I would say is it's so important to have an attitude of forgiveness. It's very easy to be like, well, these people are hurting me, so I want to get them back.
Yeah.
And the reality is when you don't forgive people, it's sort of like forgiveness, having an attitude of forgiveness is all about you and about you feeling better. So I would pray especially to have an attitude of forgiveness towards people who are treating you poorly. So Rachel's going for a teaching certificate. I guess I would look into the job opportunities to teach. I know at least here in the U.S., I'm not sure if you're in the U.S. or not.
Like where we live.
Yeah, like in New York, teaching jobs are pretty good, and they're also really difficult to get. I've heard sometimes that for every one job, there's 40 people applying.
40. I've heard like in certain districts like 1,000 people applying.
Sometimes, so yeah. Conversely, there's a lot of parts of the country, like we were hearing from a friend about Florida, really easy to get teaching jobs in Florida, but they don't really pay a living wage. So I think about,
we're not teachers.
Yeah.
So.
I would think about kind of what your end goal is.
Yeah.
You know, how much debt do you need to go into to get the certificate? You know, talk to someone who has kind of a financial background. Think about where you want to live. You know, do you want to teach in a Christian school? Sometimes they don't require a teaching certificate.
I'm
So,
gonna say
all right.
goodbye because
All right.
Natalie.
Guys, I think we're going to say goodbye too. I'm not.
You're not going to do it by yourself.
No, this is a team effort here. It's a team effort.
I am so sorry. We're going to have to run because the little one's
Okay,
getting
we have been here
desperate.
for 30 minutes though.
Oh, that's
so.
true. We made it. Okay,
Yeah,
good
so
job,
guys,
Natalie.
we love you.
We love you. And please, like, I'm glad I got to all those questions. I know there's more we missed, but we will be doing this again for Sunday of August.
Yeah, certainly.
So.
And if you have other questions, feel free to write in Tiffany Dawn at tiffanydawn.net. We don't really often get a chance to respond to emails, but we do try to pray for them.
Yeah.
So
we love you
bye, and
guys.
God
Thank
bless.
you for being here with us.